Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach is a weird game. Its very premise alone is bizarre. Fazbear Entertainment, with their decades of tragedy and controversy, somehow had the funds to build a mall that's bigger than Disneyland and populated with sentient robots that we're still calling animatronics for some reason. And what do you do in this massive mega pizzaplex? Let's see. Fetch quests, more fetch quests. Oh, okay, some stealth gameplay, kinda, and more fetch quests. Well, if this isn't goaty material, I don't know what is. But if there's one thing everyone knows about Security Breach, is that the game's development and subsequent launch were a little rocky.
Oh no, he got too much juice.
Boy, Freddy sure had a rough transition into 3D, am I right? But I mean, hey, it's been a few years since then, and true to their word, Steelwool Studios have been working hard, patching up the game and making it the best it can be.
Actually, that's not right. I'm lying.
But hey, I get it. When a project's foundation is this shaky, at some point you just gotta call it good enough. This certainly isn't what I'd call good enough, but I'm an asshole, so who cares what I think? Besides, Steelwool have been working on more important things like that sleep aid, DLC. And who could forget Secret of the Mimic, the peakest game that ever we are so backed in the history of mankind. Absolute cinema. Now, my commentary so far might lead you to believe that I think FNAF should have never gone free roam and that we need to go back to the good old days of Click Team Fusion, but that couldn't be further from the truth. I think the idea of adapting FNAF's core gameplay traits to a fully 3D game has a ton of potential. In fact, I believe with total conviction that, at a certain point in time, one of the official games was already on track to realize that potential. And that game, believe it or not, is Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. I'm dead serious. This big, dumb, weird, terrible video game has leftovers of what could have been a genuinely awesome gameplay loop that not only holds up on its own, but also maintains the core of what made this franchise so special in the first place. With how many videos that have been made discussing this game, you'd think we would have exhausted every possible topic by now, but I've been watching a ton of them lately, and not a single one I've seen has gone in-depth at all about this. Hell, even the incredible Cut Content Restored mod has yet to implement this gameplay structure. So, with the sequel having just been announced, there's no time like the present, or however long it takes between me writing this script and the actual video being finished, to discuss what this game could have been. John FNAF uncovered the story as originally intended, and now I'm here to complete the other half of the puzzle. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, and keep an eye on those security cameras. This is the brilliant game buried beneath Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. Security Breach as it currently stands is an open-world fetch quest simulator LARPing as a stealth horror game. Harsh? Sure, but it's the truth. Go to this place to collect this thing, then go to this place to do this thing, but whoops, you can't do that until you go to this other place to collect this other thing, which the game doesn't tell you about until you've already traveled across the entire map, so you have to backtrack all the way to this other place and make it stop! But like I said, Security Breach isn't just a fetch quest simulator. It also makes half-hearted attempts at stealth horror gameplay, and it even tries to integrate some iconic franchise staples into the mix, such as the security cameras. How Steelwool wants you to play the game is to use these hiding spots scattered throughout the map, while monitoring the security cameras on your Novelty Freddy Fazwatch to determine what the safest path is through any given area. 9 times out of 10 though, this is the least efficient way to play the game. In reality, most of your time in Security Breach will likely consist of Freddy abuse. Freddy's a good guy in this game, and he's your get out of jail free card in practically every situation. Get spotted by an animatronic? Just hop into Freddy. Doesn't matter if you do it directly in front of them either. Object permanence is not a familiar concept to any of these guys. To be fair though, if you spend your whole life in this place, yeah, I can't blame them. Even Steelwool realized how OP Freddy is, to the point where they try to take him away for a good portion of your adventure, but it's pretty trivial to glitch him into most areas anyway. Hell, people have done it on accident.
I guess the moon is supposed to catch Freddy, but how? Because Freddy wasn't even here in my game. Oh, hey, Freddy. I'm gonna go ahead and guess that this isn't supposed to happen. Hey! Freddy, come on. Stop dilly-dallying, we've got to save Freddy.
And that pretty much sums up Security Breach. It's a mediocre stealth horror game at best, and a dreadfully tedious fetch quest fest at worst. I guess there's also the whole thing with Moon and the recharge stations and... Wait. Huh?
Oh, this is not... Keep an eye on the time. At the end of each hour, get into a recharge station or you will get caught. So there's time at the end of the hour. Where do I check the time?
Right?
Where does it say time?
Where is the time?
How do you know what time it is?
You're almost out of time.
Oh, geez, now, uh-oh.
Every hour the power is diverted to the recharge stations. When that happens, the daycare attendant is free to roam the building. It will find you.
You're welcome. Stephanie, it makes total sense. Everything makes complete charge here.
Well, you have to wait till the end of the hour because that's when power gets diverted back to the power chargers. Weren't you listening?
Yeah, but again, like, how do we know?
Yeah, what time is it? Honestly,
yeah, what time is it?
Is this part of a game day patch that we missed for PS5, perhaps?
Hey, you're gonna escape at 6 a.m. Don't worry, we'll let you know when that's gonna happen.
It's fine.
Also, make sure that you're recharging at the top of every hour, because that's gonna be important too. But you know,
it is a watch, which is ironic.
It's a watch, but
it's a watch. Where's the time on it?
It's a watch without time.
Security Breach has hours that are meant to evoke the 5 nights from previous entries, but these hours don't actually pass in real time. Instead, the current time of night is entirely dependent on story triggers, so much so that you will literally time travel if you sequence break, which isn't hard to do in this game. The one strange exception to this rule is the power out sequence, which happens at the end of every hour. Here, you have 5 real-world minutes to find a recharge station before Moon Man catches you. But what's bizarre is that in almost every single one of these, the recharge station is always right next to you, which makes the whole thing feel pointless. Stranger still is the whole thing about the power being diverted to the recharge stations. That just straight up isn't true. As long as you have access to Freddy, and as long as the game is working properly, you can charge him at any time.
What the heck's going on here?
Well, as it turns out, Markiplier of all people was spot on when he said this.
I think, now hear me out on this one. Hear me out on this one. I think that the game originally played a lot differently than the way it does right now, because what we have is a series of really interesting moments that are connected in a way that doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense or isn't as cohesive as one would think it would be. Maybe that there was an issue in development, or maybe like something went wrong, or maybe I'm completely wrong and I'm just like slinging out baseless accusations. But there are a lot of really polished moments, like, and really fun, interesting moments that feel very nice, and they're cohesive, and the experience is good. And on the other side, there are moments that do not feel as connected, and other things.
Indeed, FNAF Security Breach at a very early point in development originally had a clock that progressed in real time. In fact, there are leftovers of this mechanic that made it into the retail game, albeit mostly unused. If you play the original release patch with a mod that enables the debug menu, you can view a set of rather interesting instruction cards. Warning, time does not stop when looking at the Faz Watch. Freddy is out of power, he is unable to help until the start of the next hour. Keep moving, don't let the bots catch you, and most interesting of all, survive until 6 a.m. Boom, the smoking gun. Now, if you're as obsessed with this game as I am, you might be familiar with the unused survival mode that fits this description perfectly. In this mode, you're tasked with collecting as many presents as you can before 6 a.m. And while this is indeed relevant, it's only one piece of the puzzle. Contrary to what some may assume, I don't believe this was meant to be the main mode at any point. Instead, I believe survival mode was this game's custom night, an optional self-imposed challenge for players who want to go the extra mile. It certainly utilized the original core gameplay, but in a remixed form that doesn't quite tell us the full story. But there is a way to bring this ticking clock back in the current patch with no modifications whatsoever. If you glitch into daycare early using Freddy, you'll find that Sun is nowhere to be found. It seems pretty normal otherwise at first, but when you activate the generator section, something very interesting happens. There. No, your eyes do not deceive you. That right there is a fully functioning clock. Aside from saying -1 a.m. sometimes. Glitch your way back out of daycare and you'll find that the Pizzaplex is now bathed in pitch black darkness. So, is that it then? Was the original version of Security Breach the same as the final, but they added a clock and turned off the lights? Not even close. That time limit, as inconsequential as it may seem on the surface, completely recontextualizes everything about Security Breach. The recharge stations, the Faz Watch, the security cameras, the very existence of the Pizzaplex itself. These seemingly unrelated elements, when viewed in this context, all come together to form one cohesive whole. More than its atmosphere, jump scares, or even its cute and cuddly murder robots, the original Five Nights at Freddy's was revolutionary for its unique and tightly designed gameplay. You're glued to your chair as these mechanical abominations inch closer and closer to your office, armed with nothing but a CCTV and 2 blast doors, both of which being serious energy hogs, in a building that runs on AA's. Five Nights at Freddy's is all about resource management, rationing your limited power that fuels the only defense you have against the animatronics roaming the halls. Why am I bringing up FNAF 1 in a video about Security Breach? Because Security Breach, early in development, was trying to recapture the exact same idea. You're a child trapped in a massive mall with the most advanced robots in history closing in on your location, and their prime directive is kill. Your one safe haven from these threats is, ironically, one of their very own, Freddy, whom you can climb into and pilot around, with the others being none the wiser. You also have a Faz Watch, which not only tells the time, but also has access to the security cameras, which you can use to keep track of the animatronics. But both Freddy and the Faz Watch have limited power, and you can't recharge either of them until the end of each hour. This version of Security Breach, just like the very first FNAF game, is all about time and resource management. You must keep moving to avoid your pursuers, searching for party passes and other items that unlock more areas of the map. You must strategize, carefully considering when to use Freddy and when to leave him behind. You must survive until 6 AM, and in the meantime, explore the vast Pizzaplex and unravel its many unsolved mysteries. I don't know about you, but this sounds like a game I'd want to freaking play. An open world stealth horror game with resource management and FNAF's iconic security cameras? Count me in. So that begs the question, why in the Freddy Faz was this scrapped in favor of a lame scripted fetch quest simulator?
One of our other directors, Evan, and I, we sat down with index cards and we did an overhead view of the whole building, right? This is what the space is, right? This is what we want. These are all different areas. And then we handed that off to our sets guys, and then they took what was a 2-story building and they made a 3-story building. And then we were like, we're gonna keep it. Let's just add more stuff.
How would you compare the game now versus the game in its original scope? And how yeah, you're already smirking. How big has it changed? Yeah.
10x?
Yeah.
10x?
10 times as big.
Oh, it's just, it's incredible. I mean, even from when I joined to what's coming out, like wildly different game. It has come so far in even the short time that I've been here.
You might have seen this coming, but yeah, the scope creep is probably what did them in. I'm willing to bet that this original 2-story Pizzaplex was carefully designed to accommodate this original FNAF-adjacent gameplay style, with smaller spaces where avoiding the threats would be an actual challenge. But as everyone knows by this point, Steel Wool is a very art-centric studio, which isn't inherently a bad thing, but the environment they've cultivated has resulted in them prioritizing the story and aesthetics over the actual game design, and that's definitely what happened here. They probably tried to make the old gameplay work in this massive space, but quickly realized that if they wanted to do that, they'd have to redesign the whole map with, you know, actual level design. Additionally, they also had this whole grandiose story they wanted to tell, much to Scott Cawthon's dismay, but we already know what happened there.
I was trying to tell Steel Wool to do things
that would have been difficult or even impossible to do if they kept the mechanics as they were. And on top of all that, they had a deadline, which was already delayed one too many times by this point. So ultimately, they decided to axe the time limit entirely, allow Freddy to charge at any time, and make the entire game a scripted experience. Is a scripted open world game the lamest idea imaginable? Sure, but it's a hell of a lot faster to get done before our deadline, so let's not think about it too much.
Let's just add more stuff. Let's just add more stuff. Let's just add more stuff.
It's so tragic how this amazing idea for a free-roam FNAF game was flushed down the toilet all because the developers wanted a bigger mall, and it especially sucks because Security Breach has so many things going for it. Charming characters, creative scenarios, and of course the sheer volume of interesting areas to explore. But none of that mattered in the end, because even when you put aside the bugs and glitches, all that does is expose the fact that Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach is a really badly designed game. What makes this even worse is that instead of finding a way to bring that core gameplay loop Loopback and Ruin or Secret of the Mimic, they opted to make both games even more scripted and railroaded. Sure, that helps prevent glitches and sequence breaks, but what you're left with isn't exactly compelling, at least not to someone like me. When I play a FNAF game, I want to play a FNAF game, not some generic mascot horror theme park ride with the FNAF brand slapped on top of it. If I didn't already know, I would never in a million years guess that Secret of the Mimic was a FNAF game, because it retains practically nothing that made those games so special. It's not an awful game by any means, it just doesn't feel like Five Nights at Freddy's, you know? But not all hope is lost. After all, Steelwool just teased a direct sequel to Security Breach not too long ago. Could this be the game to finally bring back the resource management gameplay that made this franchise so beloved? I guess only time will tell.